Hello and welcome to the Thriving Tax Office, Firm Modernization. This webcast is brought to you by CPA Practice Advisor Magazine and Drake Software. I'm Gail Perry, Editor-in-Chief of CPA Practice Advisor, and I'll be your moderator today. Before we get started, I'd like to explain how CPE for this webcast works. The webcast qualifies for 1 credit of continuing professional education. If you plan to earn credit for attending this session, you must stay with us for at least 50 minutes. In addition, we will display 4 polling questions during the webcast. You will need to record an answer for at least 3 of these questions, as this is our verification that you are still watching. Later today, you'll receive an email from CPA Practice Advisor that contains a link to your CPE certificate, assuming you met the requirements for CPE. Please note that we can give continuing education credit for multiple people watching on the same computer. So if there are others in your office who would like to attend this event at the same computer, please have them join you now. And at the end of the event, we'll provide an opportunity for you to send us their email addresses so that they too can receive credit. At any time, you can enter any questions you might have in the Ask a Question box provided on your screen. And our speaker will try to get to as many questions as possible during the presentation. Questions not answered during this live webinar will be addressed by the speaker afterwards via email. The slides for this presentation are available for download by clicking the Event Resources option at the bottom left of your screen and then clicking on the PDF file that displays. Today we're joined by Amanda Watson, the Onboarding and Retention Manager at Drake Software, and now we're ready to begin.
Thank you, Gail. I appreciate the warm introduction. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon for a presentation about the Thriving Tax Office. Just like Gail said, my name is Amanda Watson, and I am on the Drake Software team. And at Drake Software, I help customers with any of their concerns and help with our onboarding of new customers. But today we're going to be talking about, again, the Thriving Tax Firm. And I think it's a critical time of year to reevaluate your tax office and some of your business practices or workflow. As we're heading up on tax season, it's a good opportunity to take stock. So as a part of today's presentation, we have a few objectives. Our first objective is to discuss strategies confidently setting fair prices that reflect the value that you provide. We're going to also summarize how to identify a niche market so that can drive business growth for you and also improve your client experience. At the end of the webinar, you should be able to recognize the transformative potential of technology and increasing your firm's efficiency, and again, while enhancing your customers' satisfaction. And then lastly, you should be able to describe how cultivating strong relationships can profoundly impact the success of your business. So let's just go ahead and dive in today. The first thing that I would want to make sure that we discuss today is what defines a thriving tax firm in 2024 heading into 2025. Does that mean simply bringing in new clients? For some of you, that may be true. For others, you may be looking for something a little bit different to describe yourself as a thriving tax office. And while bringing in new clients is important, it can often be more important or more than that. It's about creating a practice that fosters innovation, empowers your team, and cultivates lasting client relationships. So we're going to dive into some elements that I think can help you build that thriving tax firm as we head into the future. So as you can see on the screen now, the first thing that we're going to talk about is one critical component of a thriving tax firm, and that is pricing and reflecting value. I believe having an intentional pricing strategy is really important in today's market. A well-defined pricing strategy is going to be crucial for the success of any tax prep business. And this not only ensures that you're profitable, but it also helps make sure that you have a competitive advantage in your specific market. I talk to a lot of tax professionals throughout the year, and so many people that I encounter don't have an intentional plan for pricing or strategy. Sometimes they just keep the pricing the same as it's been before, or they just kind of, if the pricing varies from client to client or situation to situation. So I think that most of us that are in business, the first things first, most of us want to be profitable. And of course, being profitable is going to ensure that your business covers the costs and achieves your desired profit margins. And that could, of course, vary. All of you here today likely have different goals when it comes to profitability, and that's absolutely okay. And whatever your goal is about being profitable, be sure to define that goal clearly. And that's a great starting point when you're considering the value you offer and setting prices. And like I said at the top of the call, now is a great time to reassess your your pricing, and and profitability often changes because some of our expenses will change. We've seen a lot of prices on various goods and services increase in recent years, so you want to be sure to adjust your pricing accordingly. Reflecting value in your prices is not only going to ensure you're profitable, but it's also going to make sure that you have a competitive advantage. And this is really going to allow your business to position itself effectively against competitors by offering competitive rates. Or maybe it's not even about the price, maybe it's offering a superior value. And all of you may have a little bit different perspective on what that looks like for your practice. And that's okay. Just be sure that you make sure that that is clear to you when you're starting with reflecting on your pricing and value. Another really important thing to reflect on is customer perception, or your client taxpayer perception. How clients perceive the value and the quality of your services that are provided is really important. A lot of professionals focus on services that save clients money in the long run, or reduce stress, or provide a peace of mind. And how your customer perceives what you do for them is really important. Oftentimes, I think that customers may perceive their tax professional to be saving them time on something that they may take them a longer period of time to do that, or the expertise that they're receiving. And marketing position is another thing that you want to think about and when you're reflecting, which is make sure you're targeting the right customer segment, and align your services with their expectations. And all of you listening today probably have a little bit different marketing position, and that could depend on many factors. It could depend on your legacy clients that you've been serving for a while, and you know exactly who your ideal customer is. But some of you may have your marketing positioning based on your geographic location, or maybe even the lack of a geographic location if you're focusing on remote tax prep. It could also be the type of returns that you do. Maybe you are focusing on more simple returns, or perhaps you are preparing more complex returns, or focusing on entity returns, or fiduciary returns, or even representation for that matter. So marketing position is really going to help define your pricing, and knowing where you are in the market and who your target customer or ideal client is also going to help you with that. Another key important thing about setting your pricing is revenue predictability. I think revenue predictability is really important in any business. And in this tax, and for tax professionals, it may look a little bit different about the revenue predictability because some of our work may be seasonal. And for some of you, it may be more seasonal than others. And some of you probably have other revenue streams that you have to make sure that you do have more predictable revenue. But this predictability is going to give you a framework for forecasting revenue and, of course, bring you some financial stability. It also gives you the opportunity to invest in your growth. If you can predict how much money you're going to bring in, well, then you are able to make smart investments in your growth, whether that is technology or staffing or a brick and mortar location. All of that, the growth, investing in growth is going to look a little different for all of us. And overall, though, the one key thing is having this predictability is going to make sure that you can meet the needs of your clients. And I think that that is one of the most important things for most of us. I'm going to guess that most of us here today, most of you are operating small businesses, and serving your clients is probably at the heart of what you do. And being able to meet their needs is going to be important. And to make sure you have the right staff and technology and tools in place all depends on your revenue and how predictable it can be. And all of this to say that implementing a strategic pricing approach is essential for maintaining a competitive edge and achieving long-term business success. I am a part of a lot of professional community groups, forums, Facebook groups, and I'm sure a lot of you are too. And I often see a lot of tax professionals there, and as I am out meeting people that I believe undervalue themselves. And I was reading a forum the other day, and I saw that a customer said, "We don't charge as much as we believe we're worth because we just assume our clients are not willing to pay it." And I think that professional is probably selling themselves a little short. And or you may be years since you raised prices. I talked to a gentleman the other day who said he had not raised prices in over 5 years. And we've seen a lot of changes over the last 5 years for sure. But last year he told me he did a across the board 15% price increase, and every single one of his clients paid it. So all of that means it's important to think about that and be sure not to undervalue yourself. So these are some reasons that it is important to think about it, but like, how do we do that? How do we set prices? And I think that's one of the more common questions that I hear from tax professionals is, I have no idea what to charge people. And me being an employee of Drake Software, a lot of our customers come to us and say, "Drake Software, can you tell me what to charge my clients?" Which, of course, we cannot. But there are a lot of things to think about when you're thinking about building your price. So I have a few of those listed here on this slide. So these are some factors you need to think about when building your price list. First of all is the cost of services. There are going to be direct cost and indirect costs. Direct costs are going to be things like labor, if you're paying tax preparers or office administrators or a receptionist, any of those staff, the labor is going to be a cost of the services, and that's a direct cost. Other things like software, tax research, other tools would be costs directly associated with the services. There's also going to be indirect cost. Things like CPE. CPE is an indirect cost, but it is so important that you're able to serve your customers well by having the most up-to-date information. So that is a value add for your business. Being a part of a professional organization, that is an indirect cost. But don't forget about the money that you spend to be a part of professional organizations. Any type of administrative expense, which is likely direct, but there is a lot of time and money that you spend making sure that you're up to date on all of the things that your customers need. So be sure and consider those in the cost of services. Another important thing to kind of build out when you're building out your prices is consider market demand. What are the needs of your customers? And again, this goes back to what I mentioned on the previous slide about consider the complexity of the tax returns you're filing. Some of you may have returns all across the gamut, anywhere from very simple returns with a single W-2 to very complex filings, maybe an entity return, and maybe an S corp, for example, that has S corp shareholders or something like that. I just rattled that off the top of my head, but there can be very complex, and sometimes states make returns more complex. So that is one thing that you need to think about: market demand. What are my customers looking for? And the answer will be a little different for all of you. You also want to think about seasonal variations, peak season versus off-season pricing. You may want to think about, am I going to charge more in the off season than I do in tax season, or vice versa? And also economic conditions. And of course, this is likely going to vary from area to area. And it will follow economic booms, economic downturns as well. I was just a couple of months ago talking to one of our customers who had a small tax office in a rural area, and he was telling me that there was a lot of economic downturn in his area, and he had to adjust his pricing to accommodate his customers. So that is something to consider. You also may want to think about the availability of alternatives. What if they don't come to you? What are their alternatives to prepare their tax return? Are they going to try to do it themselves? Are they going to go to a neighboring tax firm? There are some different options, but what are the availability of those for your specific client? I mean, the more availability of alternatives may make you want to lower your price or increase it, depending on what your goals are. Competition, this is again, kind of plays into the availability of alternatives, but you want to be aware of the pricing of your competitors in most cases. You can compare your pricing with other local providers, maybe even online tax prep services. And that could vary again, depending on the type of returns that you focus on. And direct and indirect competitors can influence your strategy. Maybe this isn't a consideration for you, but it could vary depending on your practice. Some of you may want less customers for a higher price point, and that could inform you, could see what your competition is charging and charge more. So it is something to think about. And in the thinking about your competition also, you want to consider your market position. Where is your practice positioned in the market? And how does that relate to your competitors? Are you offering a more premium service, or are you offering a more budget-friendly service? And how you fall in there can determine, again, how you build out that price. And then, again, you're going to think about your target audience and tailor your pricing to specific needs and budget constraints of your ideal client, which I think is crucial for the success of your business, whoever that customer is. You may want to think about the different segments. Some of you may focus on a very small segment of people, like you may just do nonprofit, or you may focus on law enforcement returns, something like that, individual taxpayers versus small businesses. Those segments will definitely inform how you set your prices, and your customers' willingness to pay, how their perceived value of their services. If your customers rely heavily on your services and have a lot of trust in your services, I think that you can charge more because of the value that you provide. And there's also going to be things like you want to consider the price sensitivity as well. Some clients might be more price sensitive than others, And understanding their willingness to pay is going to allow you to create pricing options that are attractive to your specific target audience. So after you're thinking about these things, of course, you want to make sure when I mentioned cost of services, the one thing I didn't mention that I think that I probably should have is your time. You want to be sure that you're getting paid for your time and factor that into the cost of services. All right, so once you're thinking about, okay, this is how I'm going to build my pricing, what are some strategies moving forward? And one piece of advice that I have for professionals is to be prescriptive. And I think that this is really a key thing and being strategic about your pricing. And when I say be prescriptive, think about this. Think that you want to have a contract created. You're having it by a lawyer, and you want to contract John up for a business arrangement that you have with another party. So you've done some research, you've identified a couple of attorneys that you're considering hiring. And so you call each one. Both are qualified attorneys. And the first one, you've explained what you need. And then the attorney says, yeah, I have tons of experience with these kinds of contracts. What do you want covered in the contract? So they ask you, what do you want covered? And then you're like, you finish that conversation and you move on to attorney number two. And he or she says, after you've explained again your situation, I have really deep experience with these type of contracts for business arrangements, just like you described. Here are the 5 key things that you need to do in order to make sure we cover all of the liability and other possibilities. I'll walk you through it and I'll give you my perspective on what's more important. Now, out of those 2 attorneys, which one are you more likely to hire? Both are equally qualified, but the difference is that lawyer or attorney number 2 didn't put the ball back in your court. Attorney number 2 was prescriptive, meaning that attorney took what you needed and was able to prescribe next steps by saying, yes, I can do exactly what you want, and here are the 5 key things you need to know. So you feel like you already are getting some powerful advice. So I think that you can employ that strategy when you're working with tax customers as well. And in dealing with your customers or clients, you want to be sure and be prescriptive, because you and I probably both know that the tax code is very complex and most people don't understand the complexity there. So that your service in that is going to be important. You are the expert. They and the customer is hiring a professional to tell them what to do. And you are, of course, the professional. Another important strategy as you're moving forward is the value proposition. And that is understanding your unique value position. And it's really a good idea to make a concise statement that captures the core benefit of your tax firm and how that offers that benefit to clients. It simply goes beyond filing tax returns and focuses on the specific value that you deliver to solve their problem and improve their situation. It also, you want to think about your service differentiation. Like, what are your unique services that you offer? Do you offer tax planning? Do you offer audit protection, financial advice? Those are all things that bring value to the taxpayer. And then there's added value as well. The quality of your service, additional services offering, like we just mentioned, it could be bookkeeping, and be able to clearly communicate why clients should choose your business. And this next one I think is really important, is to communicate payment expectations upfront. And I think that there's value in clarity and transparency. Be upfront and clear about your pricing structure from the very beginning. This could be on your website. It could be on your engagement letter, your initial formal proposal. It can be your initial consultation. Spell out your fees in detail, whether it's an hourly rate, a flat fee, or a tiered package. And be sure to cover things such as late fees or rush processing fees. Be sure and communicate when fees are expected. The last thing that you want to do is do a lot of work and they don't understand when they need to pay or how much they need to pay. Make it easy for clients to pay you and provide clear instructions. And this may mean for you collecting payment up front. Being clear and being clear builds trust, and it helps you remain professional with everything that you're doing. Additionally, one other strategy you can have going forward is to identify revenue streams. It's really important for a lot of you to have multiple revenue streams. It may not be important for you, but for some of you, you want to consider that. It helps you be able to, again, have that revenue predictability. Some additional revenue streams could be things like estate and trust planning, bookkeeping and accounting services, payroll processing, tax representation. All of those things, among many others, can be different types of revenue streams. I know some professionals who like to focus on education and providing CPE, speaking at conferences, writing books and guides, and providing that to clients and other tax professionals. So those are all important strategies to think about when setting your prices. And that brings us to our first poll question.
Okay, this is our first of 4 polling questions. And the question is, a firm can position itself effectively against competitors by offering which of the following items? Cucumber water, superior service and value, free parking, tax organizers. Pick the one that you think is most appropriate to your practice. There are no wrong answers. And then click the submit button, and we'll record your answers and share them with the group in a moment.
Okay.
I'm kind of entranced with the cucumber water, and I'm glad we're seeing
I know, right?
that.
It's an option, right?
Yep.
Okay. It looks like most people have answered superior service and value.
That does seem to be the winning answer.
Yes. All right. So we will continue moving on. All right. So our next topic and how to, when you're thinking about your thriving tax firm, is to think about a niche market. And that is specifically when we're thinking about driving growth. And some of you may already do this, but if you haven't thought about it, I think it's a good consideration to think about going forward, especially if you're just starting your practice or your business is pretty young. You want to consider, what can you do? What can you offer that other preparers may not be able to? There is a power in niche markets when it comes to tax preparation. The industry can be competitive, but focusing on a niche market allows you to specialize and attract your ideal clients and potentially even command higher fees, charge more. There are definitely benefits to niche marketing. Of course, one is you become an expert. By specializing in a particular area of taxation, you can develop a deep expertise for the relevant tax codes for that topic, whether it is I'll talk about some examples in a minute. You can become an expert in the regulations and the industry-specific challenges. Some of you may have accidentally fell into a niche or maybe deliberately falling into a niche. Another advantage of a niche market is attract targeted clients. Having a niche, or sometimes people call it a niche, whichever you say, it's the same. A niche focus is going to allow you to tailor your marketing as well, and your communication to resonate with that specific needs and pain points of your ideal client. And it can lead to higher conversion rates if you're doing a lot of marketing, and of course, a more loyal client base. You can even attracting targeted clients. Sometimes in these niche markets, you don't even need to do a lot of marketing because you'll have word of mouth. And if you're in a specific industry, those people will, of course, talk to one another and they'll say, hey, you need to visit my tax professional. They knew everything about everything I needed. Having a niche market also is going to help you stand out in the crowd. And it is a crowded marketplace, and this focus is going to help you differentiate yourself between competitors who may be, excuse me, offering a more generic service. And of course, it may help you charge premium fees. Your expertise in a niche market or a focused market positioned you as a valuable resource, and it allows you to justify higher fees compared to someone who may have a general practice. So let's think about some examples of some niche markets. And let's see, next slide here. So how do you identify a niche market? And these are just some examples. You may want to focus on small business owners because there are specific needs of different business structures like sole proprietors, LLCs, maybe S Corp, corporations. So small business owners are a good niche too. Real estate investors. There are specific tax strategies related to things like property depreciation, rental income, capital gains, and knowing everything about those specific things are going to help you serve those types of customers. You may want to do a lot of retirement planning. There are a lot of people retiring, and not everyone is an expert in everything that you may need looking into retirement as far as the tax return goes. Expatriates, high net worth individuals. You could provide specialized services for complex investment portfolios, estate planning, and how to minimize your tax, those types of strategies. And there's going to be specific industries, and some of these may be determined on like where you are. I know a fellow tax professional who is in an area where there's a lot of farmers, and she has taken advantage of that and become an expert on farm returns. And she gets other referrals from other tax professionals for their clients who have a lot of farming income or farming expenses. And so she's become an expert in her area. Not only does she receive word of mouth clients, but she also receives referrals from other professionals. And one thing I wrote here was creatives. And I really like to be artsy. And so I attended an online course, and it was about drawing and putting your art on products. It was all these things. But the host of the course had their tax professional come in and talk to all these potential business owners. And the tax professional told us gave us some key items to think about. And also now all of these professionals who are business owners who were creatives now have a contact for someone who knows exactly about their business. And I thought that was a really creative way to market, as to speak at an event or a conference that relates to creatives in that case. So how do you find your niche market? And that can be, and I think we have a question here, how do you become an expert? And that's a great question. There may be an area in the tax law that you find really interesting. Where you have the most experience or knowledge. Maybe your father is a member of the clergy. So you are familiar with clergy and how that works, and you just kind of accidentally fall into it. Again, there's geographic items that can lead you into a niche market. You may see that there's an underserved sector with unique tax challenges. Like gig workers, I have that listed here. Gig workers have become more popular in the last 10 years, and a lot of gig workers have unique tax circumstances, and there's a lot of misinformation when it comes out to gig workers. I was riding in an Uber the other day, and the Uber person told me they didn't have to pay income tax on less than $20,000, and I was thought that was really interesting because we know that's not true. I think they were just a little bit confused about some prior 1099 K requirements. So you may see an underserved, or maybe it's again in your area, military. Maybe you're from a military family, so you understand the military. So you can really just dive in, research your specific niche area. You can evaluate the market size and the profitability. You want to choose a niche that's large enough to sustain a business while offering potential for profitability. By understanding some of these niche markets, tax professionals can carve out a unique space in the industry. You can attract your ideal clients and really build a successful business. Because as I said before, standing out in the crowd is important. And if you find something that you're really interested in, that's just a complete bonus there. And remember, this can help boost your referrals, word of mouth among professionals and clients alike. Okay, so I have a question here. Let's answer this. How do you acquire the expertise for the niche market without pretending in the beginning? Yeah, that's a good question. Some people may say fake it till you make it, but that's not going to work in this business. You're completely right about that. I think that there are a lot of ways that you can prepare yourself for a niche market. There is a lot of continuing education out there. Once you maybe have found something that you think will work for you and your market, you can find a lot of specific continuing education on that. Find other tax professionals who are experts in that field. Find a good community. You can join various professional groups and probably find some like-minded professionals there. So in research, you're going to have various sources of tax research. Read a lot of the professional publications, like CPA Practice Advisor has a lot of good articles that you can read. Just dig in and just eat, sleep, and breathe your niche market. One time someone told me, and they said niche. I was watching a podcast or something about small business owners, and they said there's riches and niches. So there's something to think about. And with that, we will head to our second poll question.
Okay, this is polling question number 2, and it's a quick true-false question. Having a niche specialty can help you stand out from the crowd. Is that true or false? Pick whichever answer you like, and then click submit.
Okay, thank you. True, false. All right, so we talked about strategies for setting prices, things to think about. We've talked about the niche market. And if you are considering a niche market, I recommend to do a lot of research. And you definitely don't want to fake it. Maybe you could find a mentor, would be another good piece of advice, I think, a mentor in that niche. But now let's talk about, let's pivot a little and talk about how you can leverage technology in your oh, I need to go back one slide. Sorry about that. How you can leverage technology in your business in order to enhance efficiency and increase your client satisfaction. So the role of technology today in our modern tax firm is key. And technology is changing very rapidly in our industry, and I think all across the board. But there's some things you want to think about when you think about leveraging technology. I know some of us are probably more open to technology than others, but I think there's a point where there is some need to embrace technology to a certain extent for any thriving business. One thing that technology can do for you is it can increase your efficiency and productivity. It's going to help you automate tedious tasks like data entry, form population, document retrieval. It can help you free up time from your staff for more complex work and client service. So you can focus on what really matters, and that is your clients by leveraging technology. Technology in some cases can also help you enhance accuracy and reduce errors. Automated processes and error checking features can help minimize human error, which can lead to, in some cases, more accurate tax returns and sometimes even reduce risk of penalties. Leveraging technology can also help you create a better client experience. Things like secure online portals and mobile apps that allow for easier communication, document sharing, streamlined processes for your clients, as well as increased security. Portals would do something like that. Another way is you can help you improve your collaboration and accessibility. And this means not only with people in your office, but maybe if you have remote workers, technology is going to allow you to collaborate. It's going to have all of your items be accessible. There are a lot of options now when it comes to cloud hosting or web-based programs, even with the secure portal. Cloud-based solutions can provide secure access to client data from anywhere. So you could be on vacation, you could be at home, and you can still access some of those important items that you don't need to necessarily, think about, like driving to your office to look at someone's tax return. You can log in, whether you're logging into a portal or a web-based or a hosting server, and see those items there. It can foster collaboration among your team members and give you more flexibility with remote work. Some other things to consider when you think about technology, which I think is going to be really important, is thinking about security. And security concerns are probably at the forefront of a lot of minds in today's world because it is really important. And us as tax professionals, we are subject to specific security rules under the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act and the safeguard rules. So implementing data security measures, having that WISP in place is going to be crucial. And when you think about creating your WISP, you do need to think about to include all of the different types of technologies that you are going to be using in your office. Another thing about leveraging technology is think about change management. And especially if you have a larger firm with more employees, transitioning to a new technology or a new platform does require planning and training in many cases, staff training, just to make sure that you have a smooth adoption in your office and to really maximize the benefits of the new technology that you're implementing. So if you have let's say a new e-fax server, you want to make sure that everybody understands how to retrieve the faxes and send faxes if you're not actually using a fax machine. It's just an example. And you also want to consider how much is it going to cost to implement this technology? What is the cost of acquiring it? How much to implement it? And that's going to need to be weighed against any potential return on investment. How much time is this going to save me? And some practical tips here when you think about it, just really be sure to identify your needs, assess your firm's specific needs, and determine what types of technology is really going to benefit you. Be sure and research your options. Compare a variety of software options and compare features, pricing, and compare it with the compatibility of your existing systems. The last thing you want to do is bring in a new scanner, fax, printer that's not compatible with any of your software. That's just an example. And really, like I mentioned before, invest in training, and that's going to help your staff be more comfortable. It's going to increase the adoption of the new technology that you're implementing, and make sure you're using it to its highest potential. I also recommend starting small and then scaling up. Don't try to overhaul everything all at once. That will be a little bit overwhelming. You may want to begin by implementing one or two key things, and then gradually expand your use of different types of tech as your team becomes more comfortable with that, or you become more comfortable. And again, I want to make sure that you prioritize data security. I think I already mentioned that. And overall, let's think about a few key technologies that you may want to consider. There's things like email services. Maybe you're using an email client, something like I'm going to just name one, ConvertKit. I don't sponsor that or anything or condone it. I just know its name. So you can send out newsletters because there's a lot of rules around emailing and spam and opt-outs. So employing one of these email services may be very helpful to you to make sure that you can effectively communicate with your clients. File exchange portals are really important today, especially if you're working with customers who are not coming into your office. It gives you a way to securely exchange files with your customers in a way that is secure and that you're protecting your business and protecting your clients. Secure file exchange portals are more important than ever. Cloud hosting, something you may want to consider. Some of you may say, I don't need cloud hosting, and that's fine. But some of you may find that cloud hosting or even web-based software helps you with the flexibility in remote workers. Password manager, I know that sounds pretty obvious, but I see so many professionals and even people in my daily life who don't manage their passwords well or use the same password for everything. Having a password manager is so important. Like, for example, I have a different password for everything, but I only know one password. And the password manager allows me to keep all of my passwords safe. My email password, which I think is one of the most important passwords, is very unique, very strong, very long, and it's okay because I use a password manager. So I just want to really plug. If you get nothing else out of this webinar, use a password manager. And another thing to think about is AI, or artificial intelligence. We're hearing a lot about it in today's world. And you might want to think about ways that AI can help you. I've seen everything from AI helping professionals tailor their communications or compose their communications with clients, to using AI for tax research. And I expect as we move along, we're going to see more and more AI. No matter what you plan to implement or how you plan to do it, the integration of the successful integration, I should say, of technology requires careful planning and execution. And the first step, above all, is just to identify what your specific needs are, your specific firm's needs. What are your challenges? Look for areas where you can improve efficiency, enhance client experiences. And once you understand your needs, then research what's available out there and compare different solutions. Pay attention to features, pricing, and compatibility with your existing systems. And then be sure to, of course, invest in proper training to make sure that you're really using it well. And I'm going to mention it again, data security is paramount. Ensure that you have all of your security measures in place. And with that, we're going to come to our next polling question.
Okay, this is polling question number 3. And I just want to mention, too, that if you have any trouble answering your polling question on screen, you can type your answer in the Ask a Question box, and we will record it there. So our third polling question is, tax professionals can improve collaboration and efficiency by doing which of these things? And the options are advertising, scaling their business quickly, leveraging technology, or creating a WISP. So pick the item that's most appropriate for your situation and then click submit.
Great, thank you. All right, while you're finishing up that poll question, I want to move on to our next slide. And that I just want to, let's see, I'm going to go actually 2 slides, sorry about that, is I want to discuss cultivating relationships. And I think this is really important and is at the heart of what we do as tax professionals and probably at the heart of what we do as humans. Cultivating relationships is really important. It can lead to increased client retention. Customers who feel valued and who have a trusted advisor are less likely to switch to another tax professional. Strong relationships, of course, are going to foster loyalty and a sense of partnership. You're also going to having these strong relationships is going to lead to referrals, and that is word of mouth marketing. Happy clients are going to be some of your best source of new business, and referrals also carry a lot of significant weight when they come from trusted sources. So these referrals can be some of your best customers. The client experience is important, I think, to all of us, and really focusing on those relationships can help us with our client experience. Strong relationships built on clear and open communication, and clients feel more comfortable asking questions, seeking advice when they know that their concerns will be addressed promptly and professionally, and they may speak more freely so that you can understand their tax situation a little better and not have any, oh well, I didn't think that mattered type things happening. And the cultivating relationships can lead to a longer lifetime value of the customer, including reoccurring revenue. Strong relationships encourage your customers and your clients to use expanded services, just like we talked about earlier, like bookkeeping, tax planning, representation. These strong relationships, again, are building trust, which translates to reoccurring revenue streams. And exceeding client expectations and becoming a trusted advisor are going to really foster the sense of long-term relationships. And building relationships, again, are built on proactive communication. Things like having upfront conversations about your pricing, engagement letters, letting the customer know what they can expect. Tell your clients, they've filed an amended return. Let them know what they can expect or when they can expect to have some type of processing on that. With the proactive communication, personalized service, offering service to your customers that is tailored just to them. And as I mentioned, transparency and trust are paramount in building these relationships. And I think that exceeding expectations is always a plus. It's always a win. I've always heard the quote, under promise and over deliver. And sometimes that can lead to exceeding expectation. You want to think about your client relationships like a well-maintained garden. The more you invest in nurturing them with communication, trust, personalized service, the more likely they are to flourish and provide a harvest, things like referrals, recurring revenue, long-term clients. So prioritizing strong relationships with your clients is a win-win situation. And you benefit by becoming their trusted advisor, and hopefully everyone leaves with a positive experience and will lead you to a thriving tax office that is positioned for growth. And with that, I have one more poll question number 4.
Okay, this is our 4th poll question. When implementing new technology in a tax practice, it is important to buy the most expensive equipment available, implement technology meant for personal use, invest in training, or limit upgrades and updates. So pick the option you think is most important, and then click submit, please.
Thank you. While everyone's finishing that poll question, I had a question come in that I'd like to answer. Ron said, I've never used a password manager. Can you explain how they work, and do you have any suggestions for a good one? Your password manager is a vault that stores all of your passwords, and it can even generate those complex passwords for you. And so I use mine on the web, and it fills in my password at the websites I go to. I do have to enter a security code to get it to do that. As far as a good password manager, I recommend using one that's not free, or at least there's some that have a free version. I recommend the paid version. Someone once told me, if you're not paying for something, you're not the customer, you're the product. So with all types of software, I recommend using a paid version. So there's a lot of good options out there. I've used a couple. Everybody has a little bit different opinion there. So yes, just do a little research. You may want to ask your friends or colleagues. I really can't recommend one or over the other, but they do store all your passwords for you. And you can even have it on your mobile device. So it's going to be really nice to make sure you have secure passwords. And I think that's the last question that we have. I'm not sure if anyone has any other questions. If not, I think we are. We're to the end here. So I want to thank you all for joining us today. If you have any questions about Drake software, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you for having me today.
Thank you, Amanda. I want to thank all of you for attending today, and we hope you enjoyed this webinar. We also want to thank Drake for making this event possible and enabling us to offer a free CPE credit to each attendee. As a reminder, you'll receive a link to your CPE certificate later today in your email. If you have any questions about CPE, please contact me directly at gperry, Gperry, at cpapracticeadvisor.com. Also, if others are watching this event with you at the same computer and they require a CPE credit, you can email me their names and email addresses, and I will make sure that certificates get sent to them. Again, that's gperry at cpapracticeadvisor.com. After this event, you'll be presented with a post-event survey evaluation form. We hope you'll share your feedback with us so that we can continue to improve our webinar series. Thank you all again, and our audio will end now.